Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Vandals here, back again with another e-commerce conversation. Hope all's going well. It's going well for me because I got Jason looking back for me. Jason Wong with Doe Lashes, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. We go back. We met at a marketing conference a few months ago for the first time. We connected on Twitter, as I've said in previous episodes. Always get on Twitter. There's a lot of good stuff in the DTC community. But I haven't really I don't think I've ever really chatted about your company before. So I'm super stoked to learn about what you're doing, how you're doing it. And the thing I'm going to lead off with, you're 23 years old, right?
Yep.
Unbelievable, man. So give us the 30-second pitch. What's Doe Lashes?
Doe Lashes is the most comfortable thing you can put on your eyes. And that's the same principles that we follow when we design any products within our collection. Doe is a beauty brand focusing on comfortable eye products. So our product roadmap will be consisting of things around the eye area. Lashes is just our first place in, but so far it's been our hero product.
How long you been doing this? And how do you get into eyelashes?
It's almost 2 years now. Got into eyelashes, kind of just fell into it, and where I noticed my girlfriend was struggling with her lashes. She was doing her makeup routine. You know how it is. Very, very long time. I'm waiting for her. And so sometimes when I'm waiting, I like to observe. And lashes is usually the last step that you do when you put on your entire makeup. Like you put everything on your face and then you put on lashes. So I caught the last part, and it just seems like it wasn't like a pleasant experience. It was hard to put on. And when we do put it on, it wasn't comfortable. So I was getting out of my last company at the time. So I was just having some downtime looking for another brand to start. So I'm like, you know what? Let me see if I can fix this. So curiosity got the best of me, flew to China for another company that I was sourcing for. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just take a little detour and go check out factories for lashes and discover a lot of stuff, the good and the bad about the lash industry. And that's really how I got into it.
So how are lashes made? Or historically, if I go to a beauty store and I see all the lashes there, what is that process? Why are they so uncomfortable?
They are typically mass produced with machines, and the materials that they use are the same stuff that you find in nylon. You know, ropes that you use, same thing, just in a thinner form. And because they're mass produced, they usually come in a standardized shape. They're not very flexible. The tips are very pokey because it's plastic. So when you wear it, whenever you blink, think of something poking your eyes whenever you blink. And then the hairs are really heavy on your eyes. So your eyelids doesn't have that much muscle to begin with. Now have to hold on to an extra piece of weight. And all that combined makes a really unpleasant experience. So what we did was first we went and changed the supply chain of how we're going to do things. A lot of lash companies on the market today were sourcing things from North Korea. e.l.f. Cosmetics actually in 2017 got sued because the audit found that their lashes were made from North Korean labor. A lot of brands are actually doing the same thing. So right off the bat, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I went and found a factory that I knew end to end, I could see the entire production process. And that was after touring 7 other factories that was missing half of the production process because they were getting them assembled in North Korea, shipped to China for the final production so that they can stamp the made in China mark. So I'm like, I'm not working with that, even if they're offering me a cheaper rate. So the final factory that I went for had the full assembly line. We are paying 3 times the amount of what everyone else is charging us on the market. But knowing that everything is ethically sourced was the first point of what I wanted to do. Second was redesigning things from the ground up. I broke apart the lashes and figured out what I can change. The binding of the glue from the hair to the band, the actual band itself using the different types of cotton, and down to the hair. So we're known for our soft silk hair, which is a lot softer than anything else. Even as a guy who doesn't wear lashes, you brush your finger across it, you're like, wow, that feels like real lashes. And that's the experience that we ultimately was able to create.
Yeah, so that's like a natural silkworm silk material?
It's not silkworm, it's synthetic silk.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's cruelty free. That's how we're able to make it cruelty free.
Ah, sweet. Now, I would imagine that a world where they ask people to wear a mask was very beneficial to people where your eyes were essentially the only thing showing. As a new business, I guess I don't know if you have enough runway to really tell, but how were you guys impacted by all the mandates that we've seen over the past year and a half?
It helped. I'm not gonna lie, it helped a lot. Mascara sales, eyeliner sales, and false lashes sale increased by 225% in 2020 because of the mask thing. People are now on Zoom, so they're more focused on the face first and foremost. And when they go out, the only thing you can see is above the nose. And so we saw our sales explode. Our sales drastically grew. We grew about 1,100% in year 2020, which is good and scary at the same time. You know this very well, because I think scaling at that point without any external funding means that we would have to balance the investment into putting into operation expenses, hiring, inventory, R&D, all while trying to allocate budget against advertising. And we were at a point where we're like, it's actually hard to scale because we don't have enough money to scale. You know, you can scale, of course, in other ways, but you have to do it in poorly. So there's a lot of headache with scaling. That's one thing that no one ever, some people talk about that, but not many people ever highlights that. Everyone just talk about how you can grow your marketing, how you can scale, but no one ever talks about the implications of scaling.
Yeah. So what did that look like for you guys? Was that a lot of, stock outs and empty shelves?
Yeah. We had 3 stock outs last year that hurt us a lot. Happened in October. So it was just edging Black Friday. It happened in Valentine's Day, which was typically our largest month. That hurt us a little bit. And came a little bit about mid-year when the logistic nightmare of everyone trying to move PPE means that freight costs and even container allocations were non-existent. All that combined with scaling, we didn't have enough inventory to cover as much inventory as we need to scale, because you're growing at 1,000% and you only have enough cash up until the past few months of you operating that business. And now you have to purchase inventory expecting that you grow 3 to 4x. So your POs grew that much, but you don't have enough cash to cover that. So I have to be really creative in how I negotiate the payment terms with suppliers, try to cut costs and trim fat wherever I can. And then you have the issues of scaling on Facebook. The acquisition increased in price over the last few months. And our product was low price already. Our lashes are $12.50. Our AOV is $45. Right off the bat, we didn't have that much margin to play with in terms of acquisition. And now with all these updates, but even before the updates, we're talking about 2020, even with that, it was hard. With how little we're making per order and then investing into expanding the operation, it was like constantly keeping our head above the water. But that's really what weeds out, some from the others, right?
Yeah. Have you been able to get to a little more stable ground? Do you see a more sustainable pathway, or is it still putting out fires and run around like a chicken with your head cut off?
It's a ladder. I'm not going to lie to you and be like everything is looking great and dandy. We're definitely always running into that issue because of our ambition, our goals of expanding into the new category. So Doe Lashes, when it started 2 years ago, was just purely an eyelash brand. And over the years, I realized that there's a bigger play for us here. Doe isn't just going to be a lash brand. It's going to be an eye product brand. We can expand into categories servicing areas around people's most sensitive areas, because the same ethos that we have in building our lashes, comfortable, affordable, and beautiful, and also effective, can be applied across the different products that we make: eye cream, brightening sticks, contact lenses, mascara. Like, these things are areas that we can actually expand into. So Doe have larger ambitions now. And with larger ambitions means that we need more money to fund that. And I've been bootstrapped ever since we started. We still haven't taken outside funding. So it's just being very creative in working with credit lenders, financing firms, credit cards. If you know how to use credit cards properly, you can extend your terms a little bit longer. And all doing that while trying to make sure that we pay everyone a good wage. Everyone here is paid well, and making sure that we have enough money to still operate. So that's kind of like the back room of operating a business that not many people highlight.
Yeah. How big's your team? Are you in LA or where are you about?
We're in California. We recently downsized to just 7 people now. We had a little bit more, but then what we started to do was consolidate a lot of the roles, realizing that wherever we can trim, we should trim, but also moving a lot of things into automation. So we put a lot more emphasis into integrating tech into our company. So anything that we could automate, we automated, bringing in consultants to help us figure out what is the best way to syndicate communication from one department to the other. How can we set reminders so that we don't have to manually remind ourselves to do certain things? We built internal systems and processes to generate POs, do inventory forecasting. So being able to automate and streamline a lot of the internal stuff allow us to reduce the man hours for it.
What does your team look like in terms of build up? How much of it is marketing versus operations?
It's largely marketing. We have 2 person on social media. We have 1 operations manager. We have a person for customer support. We have our general manager, our graphic designer, and then we have our agencies that we work with, like, Nick Shackelford, we use them for marketing. And then we have freelancers that we work with for video design, CGI rendering. And then occasionally we'll bring in consultants for a certain period of time to help refine our processes. And then that completes the project. And then wherever area that we need to refine, instead of hiring a senior position to come in to fill that role, we will try to hiring a consultant to come in to redevelop our internal team, because hiring a full-time senior position at our current stage isn't going to make sense. We're not big enough for that to make sense yet. So putting that time and paying that little extra money for project-based consultant has helped a lot.
Let's talk about this, because I think you're the first person I've ever talked to who really leans heavily on consultants and their work. Like, first of all, how do you find a consultant? How do you know they're qualified? How do you know they've got the abilities to execute? Or I guess a lot of them aren't really executing. They're more strategic, like build a strategic plan that you guys can run with.
Yeah. I'm not sure how repeatable this is. I'm very fortunate to be in the DTC community. I have good visuals on who's doing what at where. And typically, I'm in simultaneously conversations with 6 or 7 operators across the board. And I know when is someone leaving a company, when is someone having some free time. And whenever I see an opportunity, I just snatch them up. And so we were able to bring in consultants who were creative directors at larger brands, sales directors, operation people, marketing directors. So like these people, typically I would have had to pay them, let's just say 140, 160K at a senior position to come join a company. And while that's still like in the roadmap for us, while we're trying to cut down costs, what we did is that we bring these people in to help us build the framework and the infrastructure to operate as close as we can as having someone like that. So teaching the team how to think, like the mental models that we need to adhere to in order to think about how do we solve problems in operations? How do we solve problems in growth? And then try to get at least 67% to what it would be like to have these people in. Obviously, number isn't a good way to quantify it, but as close as we can. But we're able to do that at a fraction of the cost of hiring someone with a fixed cost. You got to pay their benefits, pay their salary. And at our stage, we simply just don't have enough work for a full-time senior person to do 160K of work. So we have more junior people within our team, but following the infrastructure and the guidance and consultants and mentorship from these senior people to eventually develop our team internally.
How does that structure look? Is it like a 3-month time frame, or is it something where they're giving you a couple hours a week, for a year, something like that?
Couple hours a week for like a month or two,
okay,
until necessary. Some are longer. We have one who is our management consultant who was the CEO at a larger company, came in and helped us redevelop our meeting structure, help us rebuild our project management structure, help teach our internal junior teams how to think more like a manager. And then those people recently have been promoted into managerial positions. So they were junior people. Now they're promoted into managers because they were able to spend more time with the consultants. So promoting internally has been one of the things that I like to do. One, it gives a lot more opportunity to people to learn hands-on experience. I do that because when I was 18, 19 years old, no one really gave me the opportunity to do that. So now I'm able to. We're hiring younger kids who are more in the know. They understand social media very well. And that's why we're able to make an impact on TikTok and Instagram, which I know you guys have also done a good job on TikTok recently. Congratulations on that. But really, like a lot of our ability to survive in this, I would say, new wave of DTC, where you have to put more time into retention and put more time into organic social media, largely come from our focus into hiring younger folks who are more in the know with the guidance of the senior people that teach them the basic principles of how to think and the infrastructure to use to solve problems. But ultimately, letting the younger people bring in their expertise into the culture, the trend to target our audience, because our audience are younger people. Like we're targeting 15 to 28-year-old people. So That's kind of how we operate it. Sorry, that's a very long-winded answer.
No, I love to hear it. And I wanted to kind of also touch base on, your target audience. You say you're going after 15 to 28-year-old, what do they call it? Zoomers? Is that the term in that generation? I don't know.
I think so.
I'm an old guy. I got to imagine, lashes is like something that's been around forever, right? So you're trying to chip away at your competitors. Are you guys all direct to consumer through your website? Or are you selling on Amazon as well, or any kind of wholesale channels?
We're on Amazon. We have retail presence at Urban Outfitters. So perfect audience segment. That's pretty much it. We do wholesale to other countries. Like some people actually come up and ask me, why is there a Doe Philippines? Because we have a distributor in the Philippines who buys wholesale from us to sell there. So we have like partnerships like these, but like nothing too major. DTC is still 95% of our overall revenue.
Yeah. How's the breakdown between Amazon and your store?
Well, Amazon takes up 4%. Wholesale hasn't always been like the largest POs.
You said 4% for Amazon?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. So your focus is driving people to your website. It sounds like Facebook social media has been your best paid acquisition. Are you guys seeing a lot of traction in organic nowadays too?
It's actually, we're not doing that well on pay. Because of our AOV, we simply do not have enough buffer to afford to compete against larger companies. The competing companies are larger companies that are selling higher price lashes. And that's really like the thing that I was going against. Like I want to make affordable things. And that's the road that I paved. That's the road that I have to walk on. I want to make things affordable. But a lot of other lash brands out there are $30, $40, $50. And so they have a larger AOV in order to acquire these customers. We are on the lower end. So we focus a lot more on our organic efforts and our social media channels. So really social, organic, and influencers and our retention efforts brings in 60, 70% of our revenue, which is a big chunk.
Let's break down the influencer world, because I hear a couple different strategies. One of which is you work with influencers mostly for their content to be able to use paid ads for. And then there's, I would say, the more traditional view, which is work with an influencer to tap into their influential abilities. How are you guys targeting your influencers and measuring the success of that and building something that's sustainable?
Right. It comes in two different stages. So we have always employed a low-cost approach to influencer marketing where possible. So instead of engaging with macro influencers that have over 100,000 followers, we went from the small ones, the small accounts that don't get as much brand opportunities, the small accounts that are looking to build a portfolio. And so we try to understand, why do influencers want to work with us in exchange for product? Like if they are not in it for the money, why do they want to do it? And it really comes down to two things. One is that they want to become an influencer. So any opportunity to appear like an influencer, they'll take it. That's as simple as I can explain it. They want to post a product, they want to put sponsor on their caption because it shows others that they're on the path of being an influencer. Number two is that they want to build a portfolio in order to attract more brands to work with them. So the more brands that they can work with right now, they can leverage that and be like, hey, I worked with Doe before. This is the content I made for them. Here's a portfolio. Can I work with you? So based on that, we went for the micro influencers between 10,000 to 100,000 followers. And we found that a majority of them were able to meet the criteria of just getting products in exchange for promotion. And so we built an internal bot that was able to intake their information and automatically create Shopify orders. Because what we did was we found that every time we reach out to an influencer on a macro level, it would take about 30 minutes for influencers from the initial journey of outreaching to them all the way to sending them the package. And 30 minutes sounds like a lot, but it's because you send them a message, you have to go back and forth, you have to go into Shopify, create the order and whatnot. So what we did is we built a bot that allows them to self-serve a order page. So whenever we reach out to them, if they agree to it, all they have to do is click this link that we built and they'll place the order and it'll automatically go into Shopify and it'll authenticate them with the password that we gave them. So effectively, we brought down the time to interact with an influencer to nearly 2-3 minutes, because the order confirmation, the tracking number will automatically be sent to them rather than us having it sent to them. So just by condensing that down, we're able to scale our influencer marketing way beyond any other brand because we essentially, streamline a big portion of that. Then after we get a gigantic library of these influencers working with us, we start picking which one is engaging the best and which one has three things. One is how authentic they are in terms of promoting the content. Are they just taking a picture and tagging us, or are they be like, hey, I love this product I just got from this, yada, 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 without asking them to do so. If you're doing influencer marketing without a monetary transaction, you should never really ask for deliverables. It's a favor that they're doing for you. So we see influencers that are taking initiative without monetary transaction as a good sign. What we do is that we take these influencers into a short list and we commit a 6-month contract with them, pay to consistently make content for us over the next 6 months on the platform that we think converts the best. So if it's TikTok influencer, we sign a 6-month contract. Instagram, the same thing. And we found that it's been super helpful because influencer marketing really will become successful based on one single thing, is repetitiveness. When the audience see an influencer promote a product once, they know it's a sponsored product. They're like, yeah, it's, they do this every other day. Why should I care? But if they see an influencer posting over time, repeatedly, even though very obviously because we're marketers, we're like, yeah, of course it's still a sponsored post. The consumer actually thinks that, hey, they're actually using this product in their day-to-day life. And because I'm following this influencer because I like their lifestyle, that's why most people follow influencers, because they like their lifestyle. They're like, hey, I want to live like this person. I'm going to follow the recommendations that they use in their day-to-day life. So there's a fitness influencer and you see that fitness influencer using the same protein powder over the next 6 months, that kind of means something to you. If you're seeing a beauty influencer using the same eyelashes or same pimple patches that we make over the next 6 months, it doesn't look as much of an ad. It looks more like this is the day-to-day routine that the influencer just showing to us. And so we found that by doing this, we were able to increase the effectiveness of our influencer marketing significantly because of the audience overlap. Just constantly getting it in front of the same person over and over again was really the key to the success of it.
A couple questions within there. What is that process like in analyzing that first follow-up? So you talk about you send the products. How do you monitor whether or not they're posting about you and whether or not it's effective or driving sales? Do they all get individual codes?
Yeah, so we don't really give codes anymore because we found that codes hasn't really been as effective unless it's for long-term influencers. So like the ones that we send 6-month contracts for, then yeah, they'll get a code. But the ones that we sent out of like the hundreds that we sent, we can't really make 100 codes for them. So what we use is this tool called Mighty Scout. So you go on Mighty Scout, you create an account and you paste the list of influencer usernames into their list and you click create campaign. And what Mighty Scout does is consistently monitor that influencer's profile for any story mentions and any post mentions with your tag in it over the next period of time. So you don't have to manually track it. So previously people were doing it on Excel sheet, but now there's a tool that consistently go in to check the influencer's profile to see if they tag you or not. And just based on that, we gauge on the post time and whether or not there's a lift in sales because there's not a direct attribute link that we use. Link in bio doesn't work as much as people say it is. It doesn't work. We found that you really just need to look at if the influencer is lifting you up on a baseline and if that lift is significant enough for you to scale. And that gives us a confidence to continue doing it with them. And at a larger scale, it creates this compound impact where if a bunch of highly engaged influencers are posting for you at the same time, and there's a gigantic lift for it, it makes sense for us to continue doing it rather than trying to break it down and be like, is this influencer pushing a lift for us or is this person doing something for us? At that level, none of that matter. It's about the larger effect of your influencer campaign. At least that's how we do it.
The data analysis for when they post and when the sales on their website hit, is that automated as well or is that ad hoc?
No, that's a little bit more ad hoc. But because the short list of these influencers is like 15, 20 people, it's a little bit easier to analyze. And honestly, that's the only thing we have to do after we automate all these things. So there's a lot of downtime for it.
Yeah. Now, I also want to touch base on what these 6-month contracts look like. Is it typically really regimented in terms of like post once per week, post, 5 times a month? And then what is the general compensation? Is it a per follower basis or an engagement basis?
So in terms of the frequency, that's up to you. We do once a month. And some influencers that are cheaper, we do twice a month because we have a set budget that we follow. So we either buy more posts or we decrease the amount of posts. In terms of the compensation, is typically their normal rate, but at a discounted cost because we're buying it in bulk. So it's a commitment. What we have found is that some influencers won't really care if you pay upfront in bulk as long as you give them that commitment. Because influencers don't have a stable income, and especially with working with micro influencers, they care more about stability than bulk. And, truthfully speaking, they're not the most business savvy. So they're not going to think that, hey, we need bulk upfront because that's the way it should be. they're just like, hey, I got a 6-month contract. Great. I'll just charge them every single month at a discount rate for the next 6 months. That's the way it is. And works out well for us.
So there's not a lot of negotiation. It's whatever they say they're rated. Like what if they say it's $1,000 a post or something like that?
It's their rate times 6 and then at a discounted rate. So we just typically discount it by 20% just for the fact that we're committing to that term.
Yeah. So if they came back and they're $1,000 and you say the discount, I want it $800 a post, you'd go with that?
Mm-hmm. If that fits into our budget, yes. If it's like, if $1,000 is very, very high for our budget, then we wouldn't agree to that.
Yeah. So how are you setting your budget?
Our budget it's a fraction of our pay budget, honestly. I honestly think we need to increase that. And recently we have trying to increase our budget there, but it's around 20% of whatever budget we put against pay, at least to start. When we start, it was 15, 20, and then we're slowly trying to increase it and monitor it. It wasn't really until recently, over the past, at least start this year, when we really put more emphasis into pay for these contracts. Like last year, we were testing out this model with 3 influencers per month starting in July. And we saw that was a really huge success for us because they essentially became associated with our brand. Like when people look at them, they think of us. When people think of us and if they follow that influencer, they see that connection there. So we had a really good pilot program with 3 influencers starting in July. This year, we're starting with 15 influencers, 20 influencers a month. So scaling that up by that same method.
Okay. So it's still a relatively curated group of people who you're working with.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're doing hundreds and hundreds of micro influencers.
Yeah.
What is like that management like? Are they able to just order anything from your store whenever they need it? Or
yeah,
how do you follow up with them to just make sure that they're getting the products they need and the information they need?
We have an automated flow on SMS. And then we also have some for email if they don't have SMS, where there's like a set time every single month we give them a refill. Our product are, pretty cheap to buy. So it's pretty affordable for us to just send them an email, set a time delay for 30 days after they place their last order. So it's essentially they're just getting comped every single month for lashes.
Okay, cool, man. You said you're going everything around your eye sensitive. What's the time frame for that? And ultimately, what's the big picture, the big goal for the business? Is it to continue to stay bootstrapped until you retire and give it to the next generation? Or do you think there's opportunity to move on to a next project?
In terms of like the timeline for all those products, because the eye area is obviously a lot more sensitive and the products that we're looking into, some have medicinal benefits, we need to go through the proper regulations for it. So we're constantly in talks with FDA consultants and also FDA themselves and the right applications to file, understanding how much it'll be, and then really scheduling that, that timeline. Because I told you about the whole cash flow issue. You don't want to put money against FDA compliance testing when you won't be launching a product 9 months from now. So trying to time everything right at this current rate, we should be able to launch a lot of our eye products starting next year. So nothing this year. This year, we're just launching our regular lashes, but it's also a good way for us to build our cash reserve to do so. So that's the timeline. The second thing was, will we stay bootstrap? We are looking to raise here and there, potentially just because of the expansion efforts are significantly much bigger than what we can afford. Going through FDA regulation testing, hiring people for ops, expanding a product line, it's not cheap. And you kind of have to do that in conjunction of worrying about your day-to-day operations costs and also placing inventory for your existing products. All that combined, it's really difficult to swallow unless you have funding for it. But I've tried to last as long as I can without having to take funding. And if I could not take funding, I would like to do that. But there's also this argument that if you do take funding, you could potentially grow exponentially, but it's also about finding the right investor. So there's a lot of back and forth that I'm in. It's hard, but in terms of the end game, that was the last question. Definitely love to get acquired in 3 years and move on to the next project. I'm not as honorable as you are where I can do like things for the rest of my life. My personality is more so I like to jump around and stuff. I need to be everywhere. You can probably tell that from the Twitter stuff. Like I need to do my class. I need to teach. I need to do lashes. I have a supply chain company in China. Like I need to constantly be doing something or else I go crazy. And different things. Like obviously you're still doing things in one company, but I have to work on different things in order to keep my mind really, really fresh across different industries.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I'm the same way. I get the feel. Where can people learn more about you, support your company, get a hold of you?
I am on Instagram at PUG, Pug, Twitter at Agro. And yeah, I tweet a lot, unfortunately, for better or worse. But I'm on there. I always answer my DMs if you have questions. Always happy to, clarify anything.
And then doelashes.com. Buy some lashes.
Yes.
It's 2021. Doesn't matter if you're a dude or dudette. Go ahead, get some of those nice silk lashes. They will be the most comfortable lashes you've ever worn, right?
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Cheers. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This has been another e-commerce conversations. Cheers and keep on growing.